Hello everybody, my name is Starrapter. Welcome to This Week in Star Wars Canon, where every week I talk about the comics, the novels, the TV series, and well, anything else that ties into the Star Wars movies that we all know and love. This week we have two new Marvel comics to talk about. The first one is Darth Vader, issue number 18, and look at that cover. Tarkin and Darth Vader, the higher-ups of the Empire, and this is my most anticipated comic of every month, and this one certainly didn't let me down. This is kind of a standalone story called Bad Ground, and what this is about is we have Vader, who is being hunted by Tarkin, Grand Moff Tarkin. Well, he's not a Grand Moff at this time, he's just Governor Tarkin. He is getting together a group of 20 people, and they are going out to try and kill Vader on this planet, this very desolate planet. And as the story progresses, we find out that actually Vader tasked Tarkin to do this. So if you remember in the Mon Cal arc, the previous arc, Vader basically made a deal with Tarkin, and Tarkin said, oh, he owed him one. So now we have Vader who, you know, he's running out of people to kill. He's running out of Jedi Knights to kill at this point. It's been, I think, a couple of years now since Revenge of the Sith. So he puts Tarkin to the test, his tactician skills, to say, hey, look, I want you to see if you can kill me. So Tarkin literally gets to that point where he is the last man standing after several days of throwing everything he can at Vader. And, well, they pretty much, by the end of this issue, both make it out alive, although both are pretty much hurting after the whole ordeal. We have Vader, who is literally electrocuted, and Tarkin is almost killed by Vader, who force chokes him, and it's pretty spectacular. So let's get into the positives for this amazing issue. And I will say right off the bat, the violence, the action might be second to none in this issue, guys. It was extraordinary. We're seeing everything being like calculated by Tarkin. He gets not, Imperials. He gets just the best hunters, basically, of the galaxy. A couple aliens, a droid. At first they say, oh, we're going to try to use flamethrowers on Vader, right? Oh, he can't deflect a flamethrower. Nope. He eventually just breaks all the weapons with the Force. So then they say, okay, what's the next thing that we could throw at Vader? Well, if he doesn't have his lightsaber, he's probably not going to do much against us. Well, they thought wrong, because as a master of the Force, he can just snap people's necks. He can throw them across the, terrain. He can just do anything. So then there's these two Shadrafans, who are these bat-type creatures, and they basically can pick up on his movements and his breathing. At one point, Vader just turns off his actual suit to allow him to breathe, and is basically suffocating himself for him to get close enough to this group of survivors at this point and kill him. Because I didn't even mention that apparently Vader killed the apex predator of this so-called planet, and it has this invisibility kind of hide. So he actually uses a cloak and hide to become invisible. I mean, how much more terrifying can that be, having Darth Vader completely invisible to just reappear and just choke out the Shadrafan? This was an incredible issue as far as the action is concerned. I really like the nods to the Tarkin novel written by James Luceno, which was one of the first canon novels. We have a reference from Darth Vader who's, saying about Tarkin, about how he grew up on Uradu, which is this planet where Tarkin's, he got his hands dirty back in the day. You might not think of him as one of those people that's going to go out there and do something for himself, but he does, and we see it again in this issue. I was so excited to see Tarkin, actually out there in the field, actually doing something, actually having a weapon to try to kill Vader. I mean, come on. They come out of this experience, both Vader and Tarkin, having this sort of bond, I think. And we're going to see that carry through in future stories, I'm sure, about, their relationship. I mean, obviously, look at A New Hope. They're pretty much equals, right? They're looking at each other. Later, Leia's calling Tarkin, or calling Vader basically Tarkin's dog, having him on a leash and all that kind of thing. So, yeah, this is really, really great issue. You see the Carrion Spike in there, which is, the callback to the Tarkin novel, and that's the ship he had in the Clone Wars, which turns invisible. So this is very much a turning point, I think, for Darth Vader and for Tarkin. This really, and I did like, getting inside of Tarkin's head, getting inside of what makes him tick, his strategies, how he's analyzing his failures and turning it into something else, and how he's always, sort of like Thrawn, which is the next thing I'm going to talk about, is always a couple steps ahead, always thinks of various other options for how to tackle his goals. And the next thing we have, and the final thing we have for this week, is, as I mentioned, Thrawn issue number 6. This is the final issue of the comic adaptation. I love this final cover. We got all the baddies of the Empire: Thrawn, Emperor, and Darth Vader in this really cool blue hue. So, we pick up where Thrawn is meeting the other mastermind of these insurgents on Bataan. That's the planet, that's the conflict that they're currently addressing. And we have these two great, brilliant minds that are meeting out in the open. Neither of them have guards. They both respect each other's defenses and just want to talk. And it's this great conversation. And at the same time, we have Arianda Price. Yes, that's Governor Price from Star Wars Rebels. We have her on the same planet. She is with her parents undercover for the Empire because she is trying to infiltrate and get into the shield generator, destroy the shield generator, so the Empire can basically just take over all these insurgents which are being held there. So we also have this kind of space conflict going on where we have Thrawn, who later goes up to his capital ship, the Chimera, which is, as we know from different Star Wars Legends, I think it was in there. It's got this really cool design, so it's his Star Destroyer. He basically lulls in all of these insurgents in their cruisers to think that he's defenseless, and he ends up unleashing this brilliant plan where all these TIE fighters come out of these kind of defenseless looking orbital structures that no one knows that they have squadrons of TIEs in there. And that's basically how Thrawn is able to win. At the same time, Arianda Price detonates this bomb and kills tons of innocents. So the Empire is not really happy, but we do find out that after the end of this conflict that Thrawn is promoted to Grand Admiral. Yes, by the Emperor himself, and he also meets Darth Vader. And then at the end of this issue, or the story completely, we have Thrawn's aide this whole time, Eli Vantu. He is actually going to the Outer Rim, and he's actually going to speak with none other than the Chiss Ascendancy. You actually see their ship and everything. It's really, really cool, and that's basically how the story ends. So getting to some things that I liked about this issue is, like I mentioned, about this meeting of two brilliant minds. We have Thrawn, who is talking to his absolute, arch nemesis, and they're kind of talking as equals, It's really this nice kind of calm, collective conversation, and they're both talking about their ideals for what the galaxy should need and for what it should be. Thrawn even goes as far as actually, even asking Nightswan to join him on his mission to help talk to the Chiss Ascendancy about, and he even drops a hint about this greater threat that's out there that we keep hearing about that we still don't know about, so that is very eluding for sure. I did like seeing Price kick some serious butt in this issue. We know she's been training on Coruscant, doing those special martial arts, and when her kind of partner or subordinate ISB agent who has come with her to go do the generator destruction thing, he ends up turning on her because he doesn't let her evacuate her parents. So she ends up kind of going into a defense move and killing this guy. So I thought that was really impressive. Always seeing these officers that are high-ranking still able to hold their own and get their hands a little bit dirty. It was cool also seeing Price and Thrawn have this agreement where they both kind of need each other. It's both this mutual agreement where we have Thrawn saying like, I really need, she's saying for Thrawn that he needs some kind of political instruction and she needs his help to quell the rebellion that's happening on Lothal. And they have this great image. It's kind of a silhouette of our rebels from Star Wars Rebels. That's really neat. I love seeing the Chiss Ascendancy. I love seeing their ship. That's the first time we've ever seen that kind of ship in Star Wars canon. That's really sweet. And I did enjoy seeing a female Chiss. That's really cool, and I hope to know more about that character, and hopefully in Thrawn Alliances, which is coming out in less than 2 weeks. I cannot wait. We'll learn more about the Chiss Ascendancy. It's going to be great. As much as I like this issue, as much as I like this miniseries, there were some things I want to critique overall. This miniseries seemed kind of brief, and especially for the content matter that we were basing this comic series off, the novel was very dense. When I read the novel, there's a lot to absorb, and even in reading this comic, there were certain points, even having no knowledge about the actual book ahead of time, I still had to kind of scratch my head at certain parts in the comic because it just seems like it moves so fast, and it has to, because they're basing this comic off like a 300-page book, so they can't include every little tiny intricate detail, which sometimes you need those details to tell this story because it's that kind of story where it's a lot of depth that's inside of. So I really wish instead of a 6, maybe this could have been like Canon, the last Padawan, like a 12-issue miniseries. But hey, I gotta tip my hat to Lucasfilm and Marvel for coming up with, an actual comic adaptation of a novel. It's great. I know there's a lot of people out there that, don't want to necessarily listen to an audiobook, don't really want to read the book because it takes a lot of time, but they'd rather prefer it in this medium of comics, a lot of visuals, and it's cool even after reading the book, getting some little details here and there that weren't actually in the book. So overall, I enjoyed this, and maybe they'll make one for Thrawn Alliances in the future. So next week, you guys can look forward to Star Wars issue number 51, Darth Vader Annual number 2, as well as Poe Dameron issue number 29. But what did you guys think about the comics that came out this week? How do you think about the Thrawn miniseries wrapping up? It's going to be exciting. We just have to wait a couple more days for Thrawn Alliances. And what about Darth Vader issue number 18? Do you agree with me that it's some of the most brutal stuff we've seen Vader pull off yet? Let's talk about it all in that comment section below. Also, if you're new to the channel, welcome. I have plenty of other Star Wars content that I talk about on a frequent basis, as well as other general comics and movie reviews and things of that nature. So if you like this video and you want to see more, please help support the channel by hitting that red subscribe button. That way you'll never miss another video. My name is Starrapter. Thank you for watching, and may the Force be with you always. Thanks for checking out the video. Please hit that thumbs up symbol. It helps me know that I'm making content that you guys enjoy. And if you enjoyed this video, I also include 2 videos down below you guys should check out. And please consider subscribing to this channel. It helps support me, and it notifies you guys of when I get new videos up on the channel. You can also contact me on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Starrapter.